I firmly believe that like anytime fear comes up, especially around making a big move, it's actually an indicator that you should be doing that because that is
Mm.
how you're going to grow. That is how you as a soul will evolve. And we're not meant to stay in a box. We're not meant to just be living in one way for our whole lives.
Hola, hola. Welcome to the Viva la Mami podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Cuevas. And on today's Mamis Abroad series episode, I am very excited to welcome back a guest who was formerly on the Viva la Mami podcast like 3 years ago. And this was episode 39 with Jess Winns. And a lot has happened. And so, even though that first episode with Jess, it was all about her life and she presented us with her book, Beneath the Skin. But in this episode, we're going to learn more about Jess's current journey and adventure as she took her family to Mexico. And when Jess announced it, I was like, oh my gosh, I am so excited porque I feel like there is this huge momentum of like mamas that are going abroad and taking their families with. You know, it's not just like about the single people or the couples that are just moving abroad. Like, it's also in relation to like having your family and taking your family wherever you think that best fits the current situation that you're in, or just to have like adventure or to have a different experience. And so I am so excited to have Jess on the show. So welcome. Thank you for being here
Thank you,
again.
Jess. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me here and creating this platform for us to be able to share our experience.
Yes, yes. I'm so excited for you to be here once again. A lot has changed, since the last time you were on the show. We were just talking about this before the recording that you were pregnant at the time when you were on the show last time. So it's wild that now you have your baby boy and you are now in Mexico. So kind of give us an update about your life right now, and yeah, we can start from there.
Yeah, so I did have my son, but I am a mom of four, so he's the last and he's the only boy. But we came, let's see, so we can talk about it more, but I've been wanting to move to Mexico for some time. So this was kind of like in the plan, but I just didn't know when it would happen, right? And there were a number of events that transpired that were like, no, it's time, it's time. And so we came here at the end of October 2025, and it'll be actually it's 5 months tomorrow, the 26th. Yeah, 5 months tomorrow.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been such a beautiful experience.
Yes, that's awesome. I remember you sharing in episode 39 about that you've been all over, right? Like you were born in Chicago, but then you moved to like Kansas City, ¿verdad? And then for a quick second, you were in Costa Rica.
Mhm.
So obviously, like you knowing that essentially a move to Mexico would be something that you would do in the future, like that is amazing. So can you kind of tell us like the moment that you made that decision, like to pack up and move to Mexico, and what really inspired you to decide to move to where you're at right now?
Yes, okay. So it's a little bit layered, but so the first time I visited this area was 2016. And that was there was a situation that happened where I just happened to stumble across my father who was here. Now, mind you, I hadn't seen my father or had him a part of my life since I was 3 years old. Um, and so he happened to be here when I was here in 2016. That's a whole nother story. But we met, we connected, and I felt like this area was just absolutely beautiful. It's stunning. And so I came back again in 2017 for something completely different. And then in 2022, I came back to celebrate my birthday with my brother because he was living here. And by that point, my father was living here with his wife. And so, and my father's Mexican. So I came here to celebrate my birthday with my brother in 2022. My brother and I have the same birthday. And
Yeah.
by the end of that trip, I was at the beach and I was sitting there and I was like, I don't want to leave. I just
Mm.
felt like I cannot go, but I knew I had to go back home. I was here for like a month. And basically life just continued to happen. I went back to the States. I got pregnant. I wasn't even really thinking about planning a move, anything like that, because I felt like we were so locked into this suburban life where we were.
Mhm.
And then I so many different things transpired with their father, and we moved back to Chicago from KC, and we were there and we were supposed to leave together and we were supposed to do this as a family. And push came to shove, things weren't happening the way that I felt like we had agreed to things happening, and I said, you know what, that's it, I'm leaving, I'm going by myself with the kids. And obviously ended our relationship as well because that was kind of a long time coming anyways. And so, yeah, I left at that point and I came here and my father is here. We don't have, we have what I guess would be expected to have of a relationship if you never grew up with your father. I don't know how to
Mhm.
explain that. So it's not
Mhm.
like I see him that much. I see him if he's at the gym because we both work out at the gym, at the same gym. And, but we saw him a lot more when we came here, but we have a family member that's not doing very well at all. So they've been very busy. And, but I mean, other than that, there isn't anyone else that I really knew here. And, there's not, that's the thing about going anywhere as a single mom, you're going to a place without a village. You're having to create a life for yourself in a new country.
Yeah, and that in itself is like something unique, right? That often people don't really hear about. And so how does that make you feel? Like, do you feel empowered to do this?
Yeah.
Or like, how do you feel like making that, radical decision, even though like you knew that moving to Mexico was eventually going to be in the books, but at this given moment, like how are you feeling?
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, it's not the first time, right? I took my two
Mhm.
oldest kids and we lived abroad for a bit in 2015. That was a different experience altogether, just a different country. The technology that's available now, everything is just like a different world. And this is a
Mhm.
very developed part of Mexico. It's a tourist hub. So the energy here sometimes doesn't feel like, I mean, it does, but it doesn't because I've been here before. It's not like, oh, this is so foreign.
Mhm.
It's just, and that was also part of why I said I want to come here because I
Mhm.
have been here. I knew the lay of the land. And I think that that's important. I think that, especially as a single mother, if you're going somewhere, like visit it first. Make sure you
Mhm.
know what you're walking into, just have some idea of that. But yeah, it's empowering to be able to pack up your whole family. And I think when you are, first of all, giving birth to a baby is empowering, but then like all the other things that we do as moms is like, wow, we really are so badass. We do
Mhm.
so much if we really sit down and think about it. And then now add moving to another country to the list, everything that it takes to pack up your life into suitcases and then make the necessary arrangements, figure out where you're going to live. I didn't know where I was going to live. Like I said, there was a lot on my father's side that they had been going through. So I never asked for help to like, hey, can you help me find a place to rent? Because you're on the ground there. So I never asked anyone for help. I actually
Yeah.
by the grace of God, a woman that lives here, and I've connected with her in a Facebook community. And she was like, we have places where I live, and I can go look for you, and I know someone that has a place. So she supported me in that, and that was like such a breath of fresh air because I was preparing my business, my body care company. I was preparing, teaching someone how to run the whole business and take that over while I was getting us ready in the course of like a month. Because, like I told you, we were supposed to go together as a family. And as time kept moving on, I was like, I need to make this happen because I refuse to be in another Chicago winter. Like, I was like, I'm not,
Yes.
I'm done.
Yeah.
you know?
Yes.
So that's like, it literally was like a month and a half that I had to just be like, okay, time to go. We're moving, we're leaving.
Mhm.
And yeah, made it happen. So it was very emotional. Like when we got
Mhm.
here, I think it all hit me and I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. Like I made this
Mhm.
happen and it was liberating and it was also just as many emotions as you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's definitely a lot of you just like pour in so much energy about like the planning, the logistics, basically for you to get to the end goal. And once you're there, it's like, oh shit, like it just hits you. And for us, like literally driving from Chicago to Mexico, and once we crossed the border, I was like, wow, this is it. Like it's almost like that. I don't know. It's an intense feeling where you know that you left everything behind, but knowing that you're going into something different, beautiful, exciting, like all of these mix of feelings. And it's wild. And I guess for you, Jess, like what did you have any fears? Like, and if so, like what how did you overcome those fears like in that transition?
So if I'm being fully, fully transparent here, my fears were fears of staying. They were around if I stay here, this could happen. So I had more fear around my well-being and my safety staying in Chicago and
Mhm.
in the dynamic that I was in than I had leaving. So leaving felt more of like a refuge than anything. And I had zero fears about coming here. But I think
Mm.
that that's why I could understand someone having fears moving to another country, especially if they're comfortable where they're
Yeah.
at. Like, that
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. But my personal experience was I was ready. I was like, if I don't get out of here, I'm afraid of what could happen if I stay.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, wow. It's essentially like that fear led to like motivation to have change and to make change and I'm glad that you listened to that, right? Because oftentimes like we get comfortable or we just become super complacent to like, the things that are really reality in our lives and sometimes we need to allow for that fear to I don't know, to just like move us to make us go into the next step or the next chapter of our lives. And I appreciate you sharing that. It definitely helps give perspective about how maybe we should listen to, the fears that we have and make that as a way for us to make change. And yeah.
I mean, I firmly believe that, like, anytime fear comes up, especially around making a big move, it's actually an indicator that you should be doing that because
Mm,
that is how you're going to grow. That is how you as a soul will evolve. And we're not
mhm,
meant to stay in a box. We're not meant to just be living in one way for our whole lives. And so that's the thing that comes up for me when I hear people say, like, I'm scared, I'm nervous, I don't know what's ahead for me. Yeah, the brain wants to keep you safe.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
how the brain works. But our souls desire to have new experiences and to grow. That's how you make it happen. You overcome the fears, you step outside of your comfort zone and you move towards the unknown. And
Mhm.
through that, you become blessed with so much magic because, you know, when you're able to show God how courageous you are to make such a big decision, a bold decision, like, your whole life can change, and it usually does, and I'm speaking from experience because 'cause I've done it. I've done different things like this, and I have overcome these fears time and time again, and on the other side of it is always something a blessing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's also you showing your kids to not stay stagnant, ¿verdad? Like to, to and I okay, so like I'm a huge Michelle Obama fan
Mhm.
and her book Becoming, like literally you are becoming someone completely different. Like that is just part of our human existence, evolution, like all of this. And the fact that you've done this and showing this to your kids, I think that is so impactful. And so, how are your kids doing? Like, how are they doing with this whole transition? You are a couple months in, but like, how are they doing?
Yeah, they're doing great. I think the kids are the ones that acclimate the fastest. And they're the
Yes.
ones that are like, okay, they're so my 12-year-old going on 13, she'll be 13 in April. She did not want to go initially because she had her friends, she had
Mm,
her world back
yeah.
in Kansas City. And so it was tough. She had a lot of meltdowns and I mean, things got ugly. And at a certain point, I was like, am I just being selfish?
Mm,
Am I doing the right thing for my family, for my kids? And I knew that I was, but her reaction made me truly second guess at times. So having to also navigate that because as parents, we think that if we're taking our kids out of what they know, or if the kids don't want it, we can oftentimes let them be the dictators of how life
mm,
is going to go. And clearly, that should not be the case because when we got here, she met friends, and I purposely came to this community because of the woman that I met. She had twin girls that were the exact same age as my daughter with very
mm,
similar interests of like gymnastics and cheer and baking and all of these things. So I was like, I'm not going to listen to her and not go, but I'm going to set it up so that she can at least have some friends, something that makes her feel comfortable where we're going. And
mhm,
I mean, my gosh, as soon as we got here, they hit it off. They would be playing day and night outside because we live in a gated community. They
mm,
can go run around outside until like 8, 9 o'clock at night.
mhm,
And they would bake together. They had sleepovers. They're tumbling and gymnastics. And it was like, that was I couldn't ask as a parent for anything more than my kids not being in front of a device,
mm.
outside in the sun when it's freezing cold back home, playing in the pool, baking, being active, being
Mhm,
social. Like, what more can you ask for your children and that type of quality of life for them? So
mhm.
to me, it's been the best decision that I made for them.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how are they navigating the language? Like, are they Are they being integrated in the Spanish language? Did they know a little bit before coming to Mexico? Like, how is that going?
They did know a little bit, but very surface level because I wasn't raised with my father, so I didn't
Yeah.
speak Spanish. I learned it probably until like the age of 6 because it was spoken around me up until that point, and then that was it. And then of course I went to school and everything, so no one spoke Spanish. I mean, I just did whatever was happening. And
Mhm.
so for me, I've been on my own journey of like really trying to learn the language and speaking the language, and so I obviously would speak to them in Spanish, but they were never immersed in it, so they had no reason to try. And
Mhm.
then being here, we are in a community that is mostly Mexicans, like
Mhm.
local uh, people from Mexico, but there's also a lot of expats. So we have like Canadian, my next door neighbor is Italian. We have people from all over the world. So it is they're immersed, but only to an extent, and that's the hard part too. So I also, because of like the cost of living and like I was able to hire a tutor, which is
Mhm.
also one of the benefits of like being able to save on certain expenses. I could put that towards them having a tutor. So they had a Spanish tutor, and then I they sell. So my daughter bakes. She loves to bake. And then she'll go out into the community and sell her baked goods. So they
Well,
both do it. My almost 13 and 7-year-old. So they go out, they're selling. Well, what do they have to do? They have to learn how to communicate with people and let them know, I'm selling chocolate chip cookies, or
yeah.
I'm selling that, and how much it costs, and answering their questions. So now they're forced to communicate in that way.
Mhm.
So, honestly, I wish it was more immersive, and that's kind of something that I'm thinking about as well. Like, is this where we stay long term? But
Mhm.
it for now, it's like they're slowly being integrated.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, that's amazing, and it's a good transition, right? Like, where it's not just like a super culture shock, it's super different, like, I like that you are slowly, like, helping them also navigate the sense of belonging, all while, integrating a new culture, but also keeping a little bit in terms of, like, where their comfort zone is, and yeah, and obviously in fraccionamientos, I'm assuming that's where you're
That's
at,
correct.
right? Like,
Mhm.
these gated communities, like, yes, they're meant to, like, have your own little community within the greater community,
Mhm.
but the good thing is that you can also take them outside, right? And
Mhm.
literally when you're shopping I don't know, for food, like, they're already being immersed into this other side
Absolutely.
where it may be more local, right? That's maybe what I'm
Or
assuming.
like even when we take a taxi or InDrive or whatever, and I'm
Yeah.
talking to the driver who in Spanish, who obviously doesn't speak English. And then my kids are like, "What did you say? What were you talking about?" But they're listening,
Yeah.
and then they're slowly, picking up words. They're making more of an effort now, especially my 7-year-old. Like she's, on Duolingo every day and watching the Spanish. I put on, if they're gonna watch like cartoons, or especially my 2-year-old, like it's in Spanish. I don't have it in English because for what? You know what I mean? Like, well,
Right.
at least make it educational to where you're learning. And they're not in school, so that they're homeschooled, which of course makes it more challenging, because if they were in a school here, they would be around Spanish speaking students, and it would
Mhm.
go faster for them. So, yeah, I mean, there's different things, but I do feel like they are going to we're going to still keep it as part of our education and learning, so that they're still practicing, even if they're not speaking it with other people every day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's wonderful, and I think with, Yeah, with coming from a predominant, like, English-speaking household, I think that they still have this leverage in developing a new language, and I think that in itself is a gift because, back in the US, we feel very comfortable with speaking, the dominant language, and we just, like, stick to it. Like me, like, yes, I grew up Spanish speaking, but then with school, with my environment, I then just, like, English is my dominant language.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I became a mom that now, I want to integrate this language. And now my kids are fully like, their Spanish is way much better than mine. And my oldest is 5. Like, this kid be correcting me. And I'm just
Okay.
like, okay.
I
But it's
love
wild, like,
that.
how fast,
Mhm.
they learn. So they're sponges, and it doesn't matter if your oldest is, like, a teenager, right? Like,
Mhm.
she's going to thrive, and I think that that in itself is a gift that you're giving them.
Mhm.
And now that, part of their identity is, Mexicanos, like, how are you helping them shape, like, who they are and where they belong, really?
Mhm. That's a great question because it's something that I've also struggled with, right?
Mhm.
Like identity. And I think we talked about
Mhm.
this on the
Yes.
last podcast, right? So how funny, like full circle moment.
Yeah.
It's been a journey for me as well. So I feel like it's something that I really don't, I mean, we have the conversation because they're like, well, they know my dad's Mexican, they know I'm Mexican. And then it's like, well, am I Mexican? Because also look if you look at them, you can tell they're biracial. So their father is a black man. So they have a lot of stuff with identity, right? That they're gonna
Mhm.
probably maybe not. I don't know. Everybody's different and how they internalize and process things. But I know for me, I struggled with it, but also because I had a lot of people in my life that would tell me what I was and I wasn't
Mm.
growing up. Like, "Oh, no, you're this, or you're not this because you don't have this, and this. Like, you don't fall in this category. You don't speak the language. You're not growing up in the culture," which I understand, like, why someone would be like, "You're not Mexican because," but at the same time, it also invalidates the fact that someone has, like, those roots and a lineage that I didn't choose not to be a part of or
Mhm.
have access
Mhm.
to. If anything, I absolutely wanted to and desired to, and I still do. So, but it is like it's as immersive for me as it probably is for them. So I'm
Mhm.
navigating my own understanding and then also still hearing what I'm not. I still like posting on the internet. I still have people saying things to me that are like, they are either making an assumption I have no ties to Mexico, or even if I do, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter because I didn't, like whatever. You already know what
Mhm.
it is. I'm
Yep.
gentrifying.
Mhm.
There's a lot of hate that comes in. So navigating that, which I really don't let get to me, to some only if I feel like let's have the conversation.
Mhm. Mhm.
Let's have the discourse. I'm open to that. But
Yeah.
then it usually always turns immediately into like insults and there is no discourse with random
Yes.
strangers.
And you tell me if this is correct, because that's my experience too. Like, and girl, mírame, like,
Mhm.
tengo cara de nopal, right? And then people are still talking shit, that,
Mhm.
oh, you're not Mexican enough and you don't deserve to be in Mexico because you have this privilege because you're earning American dollars. And I'm like, shit, the government took so much money from my parents. This is
Mhm.
my way of, like, at least contributing to the Mexican
Right, that's what
economy.
yeah, exactly.
But whatever, I digress. But tell me if this is true.
Mhm.
At least the people that you meet in person, like the community that you've built where you're at,
Mhm.
like, have you gotten any hate?
Oh, no. No, 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 I
Exactly.
always tell people, I'm like, "These comments are not from actual Mexicans. They're not from the
No.
people that live here, and they're certainly usually not even from On occasion, maybe it's someone that is Mexican online, but it's very rare. Like if I go see their
Mhm.
profile and who's even saying these things, it's usually not even anyone that lives in Mexico, let alone that's Mexican. So I'm like, I
Mhm.
just take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, here, I mean, they love having Americans here. Like I said, it's a tourist hub, so they want your
Mhm.
money. They're working, they're hustling. This is
Mhm.
how they make a living. So like in the tourist industry at least. So it's like, no, they're not being rude or disrespectful. And if anything, it's like, oh, like, have you seen this? Have you gone here?
Yeah.
Um, trying to help me learn the language, teaching me something. It's not at all the hate that we get online. No.
Mhm. Yeah. It's interesting. I think these are just like bots and or people who are hating and their lives are miserable.
Yeah, it's a combination. It's definitely gotta be a combination of both. But
Yeah.
I do think that because the tensions are so high in the US and
Mhm.
the political climate is what it is, and everything with Issei and just all the things that have been happening, I mean, I get it. I understand to an extent why there would be such like vitriol when Americans are coming, not to mention jealousy. There's a lot of
Mhm.
people who wish they could leave the States, and their circumstances do not allow for that. So when they see
Mhm.
people actually going and thriving and living that life, like, I think that a lot of that jealousy becomes internalized into like a hate.
Mhm. Absolutely. And with you, with your dad, living in Mexico and, you being a daughter of a Mexican citizen, how is the paperwork side of things going? Because I know that you shared with me, that you wanna get your dual citizenship, which you have every right. I think that in itself is amazing because you can pass that on to your kids, right?
Mhm.
Um, how is that process looking like? And give us, especially for those that are kind of struggling to get their citizenship, like, let us know what you're currently going through.
Yeah, yeah, I will share because there might be someone who has a similar situation, and if they don't, and then they can hear the craziness of mine so that they feel a little bit better about their process. Well, my father's not on my birth certificate because my mother did not put him on there because she knew that she would be raising me by herself. So she did not put him on the birth certificate. However, we have had a DNA test and all of those things to prove that he is the father. He is my father, and that came late in life. I mean, he never denied me or anything like that. He just lived in Mexico. I mean, my mom met him here, so he was never in the States. But needless to say, the process of that as an adult, if I was younger, my mother could have had him sign a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity, and then he would have been on my birth certificate, and it would have been amended, and this would be a lot easier of a process. But he's not. So what I have to do is I have to file a motion. I have to go through the courts in order to get his name put on my birth certificate and the birth certificate amended. So I am still, because my father is who he is. I'm not gonna say it's because he's Mexican or whatever. It's because of who he is that he just thinks he has all the time in the world. So
Mm,
he's supposed to sign, about these affidavits, these sworn affidavits that say this is my daughter, so that I can present it to the courts, and then a judge that will say whether or not it's approved for me to amend my birth certificate. So I'm still waiting for my father to go to the lawyer with me here and just have the lawyer sign off on the fact that he's saying he is my father. And then I will be able to go and file all the necessary paperwork to have a court date, see a judge, and then what will happen once the judge hears my case is ideally approved for my birth certificate to be amended, my dad's name put on it. I have to go through the vital records, and that'll be its own process. Once vital records finally puts his name on there, then I have to have it translated and apostilled and go through
Mhm.
all of that for myself and my kids, and then take everything or bring everything to Mexico and have them do their process here, which sounds like it's a lot easier once I have everything.
Yes,
Mhm.
it goes by pretty quick. I think getting your dual citizenship in Mexico is much easier than going to the consulate in the US. So, wow, wow, but this is a process. My gosh.
Mhm.
So, with the affidavits and all of that, like, you're doing that in the States
No, I'm
or
doing it
you're
here.
doing it here? Okay,
I'm doing it
okay.
here. So, and like the time is winding down because my father's going to be leaving. He's going to be traveling. So he's leaving April 1st, which is like next week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I have a program that I'm doing for the youth here. I'm doing a leadership program here. So that starts on Monday and that goes all week. So I'm like, if we don't go this week, it's not going to happen because by the time he comes back, I'm going to be gone traveling. So
Mhm.
I'm like, we need, like, come on. I've been telling him for a couple months now, at least since I got here. Like, this was part of the plan. So 5 months.
Yeah, like right, you reached out to me, like, a couple months ago, and
Yeah.
you were like, "Oh, yeah, I got this. I got this." And yeah, you're just waiting for your dad,
Yeah.
but that's typical Mexican dad, um,
I didn't wanna say it
behaviors.
because 'cause I'm like, I don't know, but that was
No.
I've just been, saying that myself, but yeah, I mean, I have full faith it's gonna happen when it's meant to happen, but I can do all these things remotely. So
Mm,
luckily I feel like since COVID, the court system has allowed for us to do a lot of stuff remote. So I can say I can file all the motions remotely, pay all the fees, request to see a judge online, like through via Zoom. And,
mhm.
fingers crossed.
And I think this is a reminder for anyone listening, that even though if the parent is not going to be involved, it's so important to add them into the birth certificate, especially if they are a national of, like, a different country,
Yes.
because that adds so many benefits. But, your mom didn't know this, no one knew this, right? Like, it is what it is, but it's like now you're going through the struggle and,
Yeah.
like, taking all of these steps and money and the time, it's a lot, but,
Mhm.
kudos to you for being persistent with this, because, yeah, it's important to have this dual citizenship because you it's a right, it's your right, and, yeah, I'm glad that you're pulling through.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I want my kids to be able to have it
Mhm,
as well. And I want them to continue to, to understand their lineage here. And I think it's just important for us to know, especially as someone that didn't have that privilege. That's a privilege too, to be able to
mhm,
grow up in and have the connection to the culture, to the heritage, the language that you is part of you.
mhm.
And they deserve to have that, even if I couldn't, you know,
Yeah,
or at least
yeah,
like the the opportunity to, and if they choose whatever they choose as adults will be their choice, but
right.
for now, this is what I would like for us.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's given to them and they can make that decision.
Mhm.
I love that for you and your family, and I think it's just giving them this extra door, right? Like, this extra level of opportunity. Like, now they're already having a different life, right? A different childhood, a different experience. And I love that. And with you just, like, having a beauty brand, right? You wrote a book, you're an entrepreneur. And so how are you navigating, like, the concept of, like, living, right, and affording things and, having income. Like, can you share a little bit about how you're sustaining yourself and your family in Mexico?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the company that I have someone who she's an amazing human. She basically was like, I will run everything for you in your absence. And
That's
so I
awesome.
pay her, as like an independent contractor. She clocks in, and when she's doing her, the work and whatever she's got going on, whatever she when she makes product packages, ships it out, all of that. And, like I said, thank God for her. Thank God I still have customers because my business has been through the ringer. It's been so many ups and downs. I've had it for almost 9 years, 8.5 years, and I've moved a ridiculous amount of times in the time I've had my business. So it's a product-based company, which is a challenge. It's not digital products. It's not online remote work. It's physical products that requires physical space, storage, all of that. So there are I feel like the challenges that I've had with it in the past, I actually this is why I say God rewards you, right? Like when you make a big decision, because I've always said I have to get my business to the point where it's running without me so that I can go. And
Mm,
like this, like I said, this all just happened to work out beautifully because we were living in KC and then we went back to Chicago, and the woman who took it over lives in Chicago. If we had never gone
mm,
back there first, I would have never reconnected with her for her to be able to do this. And it just all divinely lined up. But this is the first time in my life that like I'm not hands on in it. And that's technically how it should be when you have a
mhm,
business. Otherwise, you've just created a job for yourself.
mhm,
So that is how things are going, and I'm working with someone now to take over social media because as much as I do love social media, I'm not as enthusiastic about social media for my business anymore. I've
mm,
like graduated from that and I want to focus on other things. So, it still has its challenges, but it's been going great and I really don't have to think about it. So that is a blessing. And then I've been able to really pour into this leadership program that I'm creating, which is I want
mm,
it to be a global leadership program. And I did it once in Kansas City, and that was last year. And now we're doing the first leadership week here in Playa del Carmen.
mm,
So it'll be the first ever of its kind here, and we have youth coming in and they're going to be in this program, and I'm super nervous but very excited at the same time because I also wasn't necessarily planning on that either. It just happened.
mhm,
So my goal is to continue to build on that. And yeah, I mean, the entrepreneurial spirit is heavy within me, which I will say I attribute to my father, who was
mm.
an entrepreneur himself. And even though I was not raised with him, like that's in me. It's
Yeah,
because no one else in my family, my mom was not, she worked, 9 to 5 type of jobs. So, like, that is
yeah.
my Mexican side.
It's in your blood, and that's how it is, with especially if you wanna move abroad. I think that a lot of people just believe that having a traditional 9 to 5 is the only way to survive, and in reality, no, like, I'm glad that you were able to keep your business, that you have, gotten help, to maintain and sustain your business, and now you're thinking creatively because you're in a different setting, you're in a different environment, and I think that that's what it takes, right? Just, like, allowing yourself to just, like, dream big and giving yourself permission to utilize your skills.
Mhm.
Like I always say, like, you always carry on a toolkit. Like I have my little toolkit with me. And how am I going to essentially create something or, start something new that I don't know, you've never thought of. And I think that with moving to Mexico, at least for me, like it's allowed me to just like go past my imagination, right? And I don't know if it's the environment, I don't know if it's the food, I don't know what it is, but it's something that also within our blood, right? Like we're able to just like have this entrepreneurial spirit to thrive and not like victimize ourselves in a way, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
this is why I encourage people to leave and to,
Mhm.
even if you're moving to another city or state. I mean, it's like anytime you take yourself out of the environment that you knew, your brain starts to function differently. It
Mhm.
becomes rewired in ways that it hasn't functioned before, it hasn't operated before, and you have to build, new neural pathways and things like that because you're learning a completely new you're having a completely different experience. And so it it forces you to be creative. We all have like creativity in us in some capacity. Some people it's actual art, like some sort of medium. And I've always said like my medium is business. I
Mhm.
firmly believe that because I approach business a lot of times like an artist. Sometimes I have a project that I do and I work on it for X amount of time. And then once I'm done with that, I'm done. So
Mhm.
there's people, we all function differently. And I think it forces you, like you said, to just move in another way and come up with different ideas.
Oh, that's amazing. And like, what would you say to a mom that is curious about wanting to move abroad, but hasn't given herself permission
Mhm.
to consider it yet? Like, what would you tell her?
I mean, of course, I would say go, get out, leave, hurry up. No, but I mean, I feel like, well, one, I understand the 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 pause. I understand
Mhm.
the fears and what comes up with making such a big decision, and it's not something to be taken lightly. I am more of an, not impulsive, but I'm more of like a just do it, go, jump, and then figure it out after.
Mm, mhm.
And that's a different personality type. And some people are more cautious. And there's
Mm,
benefits to both because you can
mm.
avoid a lot of trouble and pain by planning things out a bit more. So, if it's something that you is in your spirit though, that means that it's for you. I do believe that. Otherwise, I don't think, because I mean, I didn't have a desire to move to Germany. It was a
Mm,
desire to move to Mexico. Like, if it's not in your spirit, then that's not part of the plan. But if you
mhm.
have this desire to go and live somewhere, and that's what's has been put inside of you, there's a reason for that. So
Yes.
I say, like,
Yes.
make it happen, figure it
Mhm.
out, even if you have to go and visit first and check it out and see what that feels like for you. And what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, I mean, sure, our minds can go anywhere, but in the sense of like, the worst thing that could happen is you go and it didn't work out the way you thought it would. And you can always probably go back to what you knew and what you
Mm.
did before because you know that life. Right?
Right.
And I did that when we moved before in 2015, and I was only there for 4 or 5 months, and then it was like, "Okay, I can't do this by myself. I have to go back to Chicago." And I did, and that was okay. Like, there's no
Mhm.
shame in taking chances and trying something different. So usually I feel like majority of the time it works out. And not just that, but the times now are so much more supportive for us to live abroad. Like the networks, the communities, the online communities, you can tap into so many different networks on the ground to figure out what you wanna know. I mean, like, here, I found a ranch in Merida that has
Yeah.
all the, like, meats and, like, everything that I would want to feed my family because 'cause I'm very particular about what we eat. So, like, I wouldn't have found them if there wasn't Facebook groups and people that I could say, like, "Where can I find X, Y, and Z?" Because it's not as easy here in Playa del Carmen like it would be in other parts of Mexico. But
Mm.
that's just an example of, like, what's available now and what we have the networks that have been set up to support us moving abroad are far more even a podcast like yours, that
Mhm.
didn't that wasn't really a conversation that was being had 10 years, 11 years ago when I first went. Um, so I say this is the time. This is the time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and the fact that, you're doing this alone, and a lot of people hesitate because it may be a lot, or because, their partner isn't in agreement, or whatever, whatever reasons. But I think that what you're doing, Jess, is like so empowering, and just like if you can do it, anyone else. And the fact that you're, reconnecting to your culture, you're allowing your kids to be a part of it, and they're growing and they're thriving. Like, I think that that in itself is beautiful. And a lot of people may think that it's selfish, that, like, what are you doing? But in reality, I think it's just giving this sense of just like boldness, right? That oftentimes, like, we just need to go past the fear. We need to go past, like, what are people going to think or believe? We need to go past all of those, like, negative thoughts and things like that, because there is a brighter side. And like, for me, for example, like, we had plan A, we had option B, C, and it wasn't until D, and it was us moving to Mexico.
Mhm.
And like you said, like, things happen for a reason, and there are reasons behind why, and we just need to give ourselves and allow ourselves that permission.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I'm so happy for you.
One last thought in terms of what we were speaking to, like, if one word of advice, stop telling people what you're thinking about doing.
Mm,
So, do not share I think we get excited and we
yeah,
wanna start telling people like, "Oh my gosh, I wanna move to da 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 da," or "I would love," don't do
yeah,
it. Don't.
love.
Just I mean, maybe if you have one very, very close, super confident, confidant person that you can truly trust and that is not going to, uh, as they say, like, poo poo on your dreams. Like, they're not going to throw anything on you that is negative. But just until you've really, really began making the moves and you're like deep in
Mhm,
it and you're going to be leaving. Like, I told my mom that I was going to be moving to Mexico, but it's at a certain point, it just got so chaotic with like the
mm,
things that were going on with their dad and not really knowing what was happening and my kids and how my daughter was feeling and behaving that my mom kept saying like, "Oh, well, when are you leaving? Are you even really gonna go?" And like all these things. And of course having negative things that might have been thrown in there. But at a certain point I said, "I'm not talking about it at all. And when I'm
mhm,
ready, I'll tell you when we're going." And so it wasn't until I actually bought the tickets that I, like, told people about it and really started
mhm,
sharing it widely. So just don't, because people will throw their thoughts, their fears, their negativity, their what ifs, because so many they would actually they wish they could, or they wish they
mhm,
would have, and they never did. And so
mhm.
when you say it, they're gonna put all of that onto you and you're gonna psych yourself out. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, that's such a great tip. Yeah, well, Jess, where can people follow you, connect with you if they haven't yet? And How can people see your journey as well?
Yes. So I did create a family travel page. It's called This Family Wins with the two N's, WINNS. And so that documents our journey, our experiences, travels, all of that. And that is on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok. And I put us as This Family Wins, but it's the Jess Wins, like, is the handle. They wouldn't give me that page name yet. I was I had it saved on another page and I was gonna transfer it over, and TikTok, like, they make you wait X number. It's stupid.
I
But
know.
anyways,
TikTok is something else, let me tell you.
it's a whole different beast, guys. So, but yeah, so at least on Instagram, and yeah, you can probably find it on both platforms. So that's where we're
Nice.
at, and I share everything there.
Yes, it's so exciting. Yes, and I'll make sure to provide those links in the show notes. But Jess, thank you so much for being here again. I really, really appreciate it, and for you to kind of walk us through your journey and sharing, your purpose as to why you decided to move to Mexico. And like I said, if you're able to do it, anyone can. Especially as being a single mom, homeschooling your kids, like, girl, like, you're doing a lot. And, definitely pat yourself in the back and celebrate this massive win, because it's just amazing. So, yeah,
Thank you, Jess. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for having me. This was fun. I always like thinking about life and all the things. So I
love it.
appreciate you.